Welcome back to Panda Audiobooks. You are listening to Pursuit of the Truth by Jen, covering chapters 111 through 115. The world below is in a state of absolute shock. As Su Ming ascends past the limits of the tribal prodigies, the ancient Han Mountain bell begins to toll with a thunderous resonance. This is no longer a simple trial, it is a revelation. Every step Su Ming takes sends a shockwave through the three tribes, as they realize the medicine master they try to control is a monster of unparalleled power. Listen as the mountain itself begins to tremble. Chapter 111, Waking Up to Unfamiliar Sights. Arc 2, the world of wind and cold rain tumbled down from the sky and hit on the big tree leaves, creating lashing sounds. A large amount of raindrops accumulated on the leaves and slid down along the veins on the leaves, forming a tiny stream that fell from the tip of the leaves. This was a rainforest. The ground was filled with mud, and as rain fell on it, swamps were formed. The sky was dark. Only the occasional lightning lit up everything in the world for an instant. The thunder roared and tumbled forward, echoing in the night before disappearing quietly. In the deeper part of the forest was a mountain range that was hidden in the night. The mountains there were not tall, and could not compare with Dark Mountain. They were not tall, but they were many. At that moment, lightning sliced through the sky and brightened up the earth. On one of the middle mountains, a person was lying on the ground. This person had been in this deserted place for a few days. There was no clue to how he had appeared there, wearing a torn beast skin shirt and looking incredibly pathetic. The person lying there unmoving was a young man that looked to be in his 20s. He had a clean and handsome face, but there was a scar marring it. His eyes were closed, and there were many wounds on his body. These injuries had already turned white, and no blood was flowing out. The rain continued falling for a few days before letting up. The sky became clear and the dark clouds dispersed. The land welcomed the sun. It was now summer. Once the rain passed, mist gradually rose up on the land. There was also an incredible heat that seemed to want to burn everything alive. That young man that lay on the mountain did not move. He seemed as if he was dead. A few days more passed again. There were some bald vultures circling in the sky. The eyes of these bald vultures were cold. As they flew in the sky, they had their eyes fixed on the person lying on the mountain. They circled above as if hesitating. Finally, one of the bald vultures lost its patience. It dove down towards the young man's body, flapping its wings as it circled above the young man before landing on his chest. The vulture used its sharp beak to poke at the prey it had been eyeing for the past few days. It watched its prey's face as it continued poking and eating his flesh. Gradually, it relaxed. In its eyes, this was definitely a dead person. Soon, the remaining bald vultures in the sky dove down and landed on the young man's body without a sound and with cold eyes. Yet the moment they landed, the young man suddenly opened his eyes and grabbed the first bald vulture that had landed on his chest with his right hand. Shocked, the other bald vultures wanted to fly up, but their bodies seemed stuck on the young man's body. They could not fly. The young man brought the bald vulture to his mouth and bit into its neck, drinking its blood. The blood, which tasted foul, flowed down his throat and into his body, making a sharp stab of pain develop in his body, which had gone numb due to hunger. Yet that pain allowed a hint of warmth to finally appear in his entire body. Very soon, the bald vulture stopped struggling, having lost all of its blood. The young man took a deep breath and placed the bald vulture in his hands by the side. He grabbed another one that could not fly away from his body and leisurely drank its blood. It was not until all the 7 bald vultures stuck to his body had died that a hint of red finally appeared on the young man's face. He lay there and looked at the sky. It was very blue. The sun was blazing hot. His eyes were filled with uncertainty. He was Su Ming. He had already woken up a few days ago in the rain. Upon waking up, he could still hear the fragile voice calling out to him in his dreams. The voice that called him brother accompanied him even as he woke up. When his mind cleared from sleep, he felt sharp pain bursting out from his entire body. He had no strength left, not even to lift his hands. He could only lie on the ground and feel the raindrops falling on his body. The rain fell on the wounds all over his body, and he soon grew numb amid the pain. It was not just his body that became numb, his heart too grew numb. Over the past few days, He laid on the ground as his mind was thrown into extreme confusion and bewilderment. He remembered a vortex appearing in the air above Dark Mountain due to that one palm strike from the person in the starry sky. When he was sucked into the void, he saw the elder getting sucked in as well with his eyes closed. He had no idea whether the elder was dead or alive. He didn't know what that vortex was, nor why it had appeared, just as he didn't know where he was. Yet as he looked at the blazing sun in the sky and the unfamiliar mountains by his side, he had a vague feeling that he was no longer at Dark Mountain. He didn't want to believe that the elder had passed away, but he also knew that the elder's injuries were much worse than his. The final sight where the elder had lain unmoving with his eyes closed made Su Ming not want to think. There was pain in his heart, one of losing the closest person to him. The elder won't die. Su Ming closed his eyes. The grief on his face was gradually hidden away. Ever since he was young, he had lived under the protection of the elder. He had never left the tribe for a long period of time alone. So now, surrounded by unfamiliar sights, Su Ming felt lonely, but he knew that he had to become stronger. When he opened his eyes once again, there was no longer any sadness in them. It was hidden deep within his heart. No one could find any hint of sadness on him. His eyes were calm, so calm that they were cold. He struggled to sit up. Under the blazing sun, he sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes, silently circulating his qi around his body. Yet the moment his qi started moving, sharp pain stabbed him, making him lurch forward, but he gritted his teeth and did not make a sound. Su Ming knew that his body had sustained incredibly deep internal injuries after forcefully breaking through and increasing his power, going through that long chain of battles, and being heavily wounded in the last battle. These internal injuries had now all surfaced. All 243 blood veins of the blood solidification realm are still here, but before I recover, I can't use all of them, Su Ming panted harshly. He clenched his right fist and lifted it up. A sharp pain rose in his body, but there were no changes whatsoever on his face. He had already learned to bear with the pain. I should be able to use the power of 100 blood veins, which is around the peak of the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. But these injuries will only become more serious with time passage. I'll just grow weaker until the day I die. Su Ming was silent and continued circulating the qi in his body amid the sharp pain. Gradually, the sky darkened. When the moon appeared, Su Ming lifted his head and looked at it. Threads of moonlight fell down and surrounded him before they blended into his body, nourishing him. The night passed by quickly. When the morning sun lit up the earth, it dissipated the slight hint of cold brought by the night and replaced it once again with blazing heat. Su Ming opened his eyes and let out a shaky breath. The color on his face was much better than the previous day, but he still felt weak. He frowned, and after checking his body, he sighed. If I had not mastered fine control and used the moonlight to heal myself, then after going through those events, I wouldn't have even been able to use the power of 100 blood veins. Even so, I can only use the power of 98 blood veins now. I have to think of a way to get rid of these internal injuries. I need enough medicinal pills to cure myself. Su Ming fell into momentary silence, touching his bosom to look for his items. He had been sucked into the vortex earlier and had no idea whether the few items he kept away in his bosom were still around. He had a broken bag, the little bone Shan Hen held onto before he died, and the beast bone given to him by the tribe leader before they parted ways so that he could tell whether the tribe was safe. Besides these, there was also a zun made of bone, a broken shard of Dark Mountain's statue of the god of berserkers, and a bottle that was slightly cracked but not broken, containing 2 drops of berserker blood. As he looked at these items, Su Ming held up the shard from Dark Mountain tribe statue of the god of berserkers. This was the shard that had cut his face when the statue exploded, leaving a scar. Su Ming looked at it and closed his eyes. After a long while, he placed all the items into the broken bag. There might be some problems with the bag, but it was his only choice right now. Once he finished packing up, Su Ming stood up and rubbed the center of his brows with his right hand. There was a contemplative look on his face. He had to rely on himself for everything now. This meant that he had to be careful and not make even the slightest mistake. This place is unfamiliar to me. With my current condition, before my power completely recovers, I can't leave this rainforest. These woods are dense, so I might find some of the herbs I need. A flash passed through Su Ming's eyes as he thought. He slowly climbed down the mountain with his weakened body. For a few days, he searched the entire forest and the mountains carefully, staying on constant alert. The elder is not here. After those few days, Su Ming sat by a river on one of the mountains, a hand pressing onto his chest. It hurt there, causing him to be unable to hide the grief on his face. After a while, Su Ming used indifference and calmness to bury his sorrows. He washed himself in the river and looked at his face reflected in the water. That face no longer held the tenderness of a boy at 16 years of age, but now had faint signs of age. Just how many years did I stay in that vortex? Su Ming touched the scar left by Dark Mountain's statue of the god of berserkers and quietly washed his body clean. He put on his clothes and tied his hair in a bundle before sitting down by the river and looking at the sky without making a sound. Why did the elder's face change after the person in black robes brought out the plate? Who are the we mentioned by the person in black robes? Bai Tu might be dead, but from the words of the person in black robes, this battle was started due to someone else. The big flag that flew out of the elder's body at the final moments of the battle turned into the starry sky. That person in black robes said that it was the sky from another world. What did he mean by another world? The elder asked me to remember that sky. Could my birthplace be? A complicated look appeared on Su Ming's face as he thought. The deepest image left behind by the changed sky was the person formed by the starlight. Who was that middle-aged man that looked somewhat similar to Su Ming? An answer formed in his heart, but he could not be certain of it. Is he my father? As those questions rose up one after another, Su Ming could feel that a great veil of mystery fell upon what had happened that day, and on his own person. It covered everything in his sights, and he could not see clearly. Also, where am I? How far am I from Dark Mountain? Bai Ling. I still remember the promise, but I can't fulfill it now. Su Ming closed his eyes. Xiao Hong, are you all right? As dusk arrived and the sky gradually darkened, Su Ming left the river and went into the forest. His back seemed lonely and desolate as he staggered onward. Chapter 112. Fire appearing when lightning struck wood. The heat during summer in this unfamiliar place made the air stifling even if it was night. With rain pouring down once every few days, more swamplands were formed from the mud on the ground, making it hard to traverse. Su Ming was extremely unused to this. There may have been rainstorms where he grew up in Dark Mountain, but they were rarely like in this place, where it seldom stopped raining, and this had been going on and off for more than a month. Su Ming's injuries became worse. The weakness he felt grew as days went by. Even if he used fine control to suppress it and moonlight to nourish his body, as time passed by, the blood veins he could use had decreased to 80. Within the deeper parts of the rainforest, on the low mountain range that housed a lot of mountains, was a small mountain. There was a naturally formed crack on it, and Su Ming sat cross-legged inside. There was no water in there, but the walls of the mountain were wet. When he placed his hand on the walls, he could feel cold wetness. There was ash left behind on the ground by a fire. During the past few days, Su Ming had stayed here. The inside of the naturally formed crack was built in the shape of a gourd. It was not big, but neither was it small. It served as a place for Su Ming to avoid the rain and quench herbs. There were a lot of cracks like these in the mountain range. Su Ming hadn't spent much time before finding a cave that was more secluded compared to the rest. Even if it rains non-stop, the plants here are still very dense, some of which are strange. There is even plenty of that supposedly rare thousand-leaf flower growing here. Something flashed in Su Ming's eyes. He lowered his head and looked at the herbs situated close before him on the ground. These were the herbs he'd found within the month of traveling carefully around the rainforest under the rainstorm. As he looked at the herbs, Su Ming stood up. He felt that his body was also damp and wet, which made him incredibly uncomfortable. It's a pity that while there are a lot of herbs here, there isn't any cloud gauze grass. I can't create mountain spirit, but the herbs required to create scattering dust and south asunder are mostly complete. I only need night glitter branch. Su Ming frowned. This was the reason why he could not create any pills this month. Even as he got out of his meditative state, he was still thinking about it. It was still raining outside. Thunder would boom in the sky occasionally. Su Ming had already gotten used to this sound. He walked out quietly and arrived at the entrance of the cave. The first thing that entered his sights was lightning slicing ferociously through the dark sky, which brought light upon the place. It was soon followed by thunder booming, as if there was someone roaring so loudly in the sky it shook the earth. Lightning flashed in the sky and lit up the land, but it became dark again in an instant. Rain battered the ground, and some of the raindrops fell on Su Ming. He took in a deep breath. The stifling air of summer was somewhat gone. It was much more comfortable standing where he was rather than inside the cave. Even if it was much more humid here, there was also a slight refreshing feeling. Su Ming looked at the dark sky and land. Everything here was unfamiliar to him, even the rain was unusual, but Su Ming no longer let his loneliness show on his face. Instead, he hid it away deeply. His eyes were calm as he looked at the land and fell into deep thought. Without Night Glitterbranch, I can't create any pills. Am I really supposed to walk out of the rainforest to search outside in my weakened state? The frown on his face grew deeper. After a long while, Su Ming let out a light sigh. At that moment, amid the rumbling thunder, a bolt of lightning suddenly cracked as if wanting to split the sky apart. The moment it crackled in the air, it was as if it discovered that it was too close to the rainforest where Su Ming was and changed direction. Right before Su Ming's eyes, the bolt of lightning fell down in a straight line. With a crash, it plunged into the rainforest a distance away from him. Soon, black smoke rose into the air as lightning continued crackling in the sky. There was also light caused by the fire. Although the light was soon extinguished, when Su Ming saw that sight, he felt his heart jolt. A thought flashed in his head at that moment. This place should not be suitable for Night Glitterbranch to grow. I remember this herb is common in Dark Mountain. Every time I collected it, there'd be sparks of fire flashing. If it fell on my body, I'd feel as if I was scorched. It must be because the power of fire is hidden within Night Glitterbranch. This place is constantly raining, so it's always moist. This herb can't grow here. When Su Ming was at Dark Mountain, he did not think about it so much. Yet now, since he was alone in this unfamiliar place, he had to rely on himself for everything. A glint appeared in his eyes. He looked at where the bolt of lightning struck deep in the rainforest. Su Ming took a few steps backward and returned to the mountain cave. He took one of the herbs piled on the ground and stared at it intently. This is the iron core flower. This thing, Su Ming flicked it gently, and a sound as if metal crashed into metal echoed in the cave immediately. This thing should contain the power of metal. That's why this herb is so sturdy, and why it's so hard for normal people to collect it. There's also the catalpa. This herb grows densely. I've never paid much attention to them, but now, Su Ming took another herb and broke one of its leaves. Liquid flowed out from the broken part of the herb, but it only lasted for the time required for an incense stick to burn. The liquid gathered at the broken part and formed a round protruding shape. Su Ming knew that if he planted this herb on the ground, then before long, young leaves would grow from the broken part. They would look incredibly vigorous, a strange sight that made stunned people. I've never thought much about the 5 herbs needed for scattering dust, but now, it's clear that they're herbs belonging to the 5 different elements. The power of metal, the power of life, and then there's the fire from the Night Glitterbranch. As for the other 2 herbs, they're the commonly cited ones that contain the power of water and I don't need the leaves of this herb, but its roots, which are buried underground. There was a contemplative look in Su Ming's eyes. He stared at the roots that still contained some dirt lying among the herbs. This should be the power of earth. I need 5 different elements to create the enigmatic scattering dust, and now I'm lacking one of them. But if the basic principle behind the pill is this, then I might be able to find something to substitute it. Su Ming's eyes flashed. This problem had been bothering him for quite some time. Now that he saw that bolt of lightning, he felt his spirits lift up. He immediately turned around and created an afterimage as he left the cave, charging into the rainstorm. Rain fell on his body, and soon he was drenched. Water fell down his hair, but he ignored it, moving extremely quickly. He ran along the small mountain and entered the rainforest down below, dashing towards where he saw the place lightning had struck earlier. Mud filled the ground of the rainforest. There were also a lot of rotting leaves that gave out a humid smell. Lashing sounds echoed in the air as the heavy rain poured down from the sky. Su Ming sped through the rainforest. Soon, he took a leap and crouched on a wet and slippery branch. Before him, he saw a big tree so tall it reached the sky. That tree was obviously much taller than the other trees around it. Yet it was black. The branches had turned into ashes, causing the tree to look like a wreck. Black smoke rose from the tree. There may have been rain falling down around it, but Su Ming could still feel remnants of a frightening might coming from around it. He observed for a while before leaping from the branch and approaching the black dried-up tree. He raised a hand and touched the surface. A hint of warmth came from it. The surface may have been drenched by rain, but when Su Ming used a bit of force in his fingers and clawed in, he could feel that the insides of the tree were dry. The power of lightning is related to fire. When that bolt of lightning fell upon this tree, it caused all the water vapor on this originally wet tree to evaporate, turning it dry and making it burn after it was struck. Over here, there is nothing that contains more power of fire than this burnt tree. Su Ming jumped up and the 80 blood veins in his body suddenly lit up with a blood-red light. He hit the tree a few times. As booming sounds echoed in the air, the tree bark crumbled completely, revealing the hot core of the tree. Su Ming positioned his right hand in the form of a knife and sliced downwards. Immediately, the core of the tree, which was 30 feet tall, was cut down. He quickly cut it into several parts and placed inside the broken bag. However, the space of the bag was limited. He could not place some of the cut core parts into it. Su Ming hefted them on his body and charged into the rainforest, back towards that mountain cave. I should be able to substitute fire since my blood contains it, or I could even burn trees to create the effects of night glitter branch, but nothing can compare to the natural fire created by the bolt of lightning. As Su Ming ran, many different thoughts appeared in his head. Before long, he returned to the crack and went into the cave with rain dripping down his body. Su Ming panted slightly and placed the charred and slightly hot cores down, then he took out the other cores from the broken bag. He looked at these materials and took a deep breath. Once he sat down cross-legged, he started soothing the qi in his body. After the span of time required for 2 incense sticks to burn, Su Ming opened his eyes and raised his right hand. With one single thought, a ball of fire suddenly appeared on his right hand with a crackling sound. The ball emitted warmth and heated up the area, causing the entire cave to be filled with light. Su Ming's face was serious as he carefully used fine control to manipulate the fire in his hand. He observed it for a moment. Once he waited till the fire in his hand had stabilized, he quickly grabbed the herbs necessary to create scattering dust from the pile by his side. He used his left hand to move them, then carefully placed into the fire in his right hand. This was the method he had thought of when he found that there was no place like Black Flame Mountain in this unfamiliar place. His qi contained fire, and after the battle with Bai Tu, Su Ming felt that some part in his body had changed. This ball of fire was one of the changes. He no longer needed fresh blood to summon it. That was why he had thought about this method, using his hand as a medicinal cauldron to quench herbs. Su Ming had already created scattering dust multiple times. He was pretty familiar with each of the steps needed for this pill. Nonetheless, this was the first time he used his hand as the cauldron. After a short period of discomfort, he slowly mastered the technique. The tree core that was struck by lightning was the final item placed into the fire. As he looked at the 5 materials melting and blending together within, Su Ming focused all his attention on the fire in his hand and began the process of quenching the herbs calmly. Chapter 113. Encountering Other People. When the morning of the second day arrived, the rainstorm was still pouring heavily outside. The world outside looked blurry due to the rain, but Su Ming's eyes were bright as he sat in the cave in the crack on the mountain, though he looked exhausted. In his right hand, a ball of black liquid was tumbling about, as if about to gather together. Yet after a few tries, it could still not fuse together. Su Ming's heart was as calm as the still water in an ancient well. He controlled the fire in his hands, and after a moment, the flames suddenly became greater and turned into a fireball, hiding away all the black liquid inside. After a while, Su Ming's face turned pale. His body was in a weakened state. Using the fire in his qi for a long period of time was a little too much for him. He panted harshly, and the fire in his right hand gradually disappeared. There were 3 black pills in his palm. A nice medicinal fragrance wafted into his nose, making Su Ming feel refreshed the moment he smelled it. He brought the 3 pills before his eyes and scrutinized them. The medicinal pills weren't green, but their fragrance was familiar to Su Ming. Without any hesitation, he placed 1 pill into his mouth. It was still hot, but it didn't hurt Su Ming. The moment the medicinal pill touched his tongue, it melted. Su Ming closed his eyes and quietly experienced the feeling. "It's a little different, but it's definitely scattering dust," Su Ming mumbled and placed the other 2 scattering dust pills away. He sat down cross-legged and meditated. Once a large amount of the fatigue in his body went away, he looked at the herbs piled before him, and a resolute look appeared on his face. "If I can use the core of the tree struck by lightning to create scattering dust, then I can use the same method to create South Asunder. I have no idea what the effects of that medicinal pill are, but I'm quite certain that it won't increase the power of my chi like mountain spirit. After all, there were 3 types of medicinal pills provided after I opened the second door. I can ignore the welcoming of deities. Now, since mountain spirit increases chi, then it's highly possible that South Asunder won't repeat this effect." Su Ming rubbed the center of his brows. Most of his hopes were placed on South Asunder. If his analysis was incorrect, then he would have to leave this place in his weakened state and search for a method to recover outside. To ensure that he could definitely create South Asunder, Su Ming did not immediately start the quenching process, but rested for a long while until the sky became dark once again. After an entire day's worth of rest, Su Ming began creating South Asunder, the pill that could possibly be very important to him. Half a month passed by slowly. Su Ming had already been in this unfamiliar place for 2 months. His body had become even weaker during the past half a month due to him creating medicinal pills. Nonetheless, because it was Su Ming's first time creating South Asunder, failure was inevitable. Yet due to his continuous hard work, after half a month, he managed to create 2 South Asunder. Su Ming's face was pale, but his eyes were calm as he looked at the purple pills that were clearly larger than scattering dust, being the size of a fist. There was no medicinal fragrance from it, and it looked incredibly normal. After a period of silence, Su Ming took one of the pills decisively and placed it in his mouth without hesitation. After going through so many things, he was no longer a child. He could analyze on his own now. Ever since he started creating the medicinal pills, besides scattering blood, which he had created on accident, everything else was harmless. More importantly, he did not have the luxury to waste even 1 pill for experimental purposes. When the purple pill entered Su Ming's mouth, it did not melt immediately. Instead, it slowly broke apart and slid down his throat with a bitter taste. After that, Su Ming took 1 scattering dust and swallowed it. Once he was done, he sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes, circulating the chi in his body to feel the effects of South Asunder. Time trickled by. After an hour, Su Ming suddenly shuddered and the 243 blood veins surfaced on his body. However, only about 80 of these blood veins glowed in a brilliant red color. The rest of them were dull. The trembles shaking Su Ming's body became more intense, and a pained look appeared on his face. After a moment, he opened his eyes and coughed out a mouthful of black blood. The black blood fell on the ground, letting out a rotten stench. The moment Su Ming spat the blood out, a hint of red appeared on his cheeks. Around 10 of the dull blood veins on his body became revitalized. They no longer emitted a dull light, but slowly glowed with a brilliant red light. After a long while, Su Ming's breathing calmed down. He looked at the final South Asunder in his hand. South Asunder has curative effects. If only I had managed to create this pill before the tribe went into battle. Su Ming closed his eyes and let out a light sigh. He stayed in the mountain range located deep in the rainforest, seldom going out. Every time he did so, it was because he had used up all of the herbs, or ran out of the replacements for night glitterbranch, having to go out to seek more of them. Fortunately, the rainforest was huge, and it was not uncommon for lightning to strike trees. Usually, when a bolt of lightning struck a tree, it would provide Su Ming with a large amount of materials. In the blink of an eye, a year passed by. During that year, there was a period of half a year where there was no rain, yet there was no sight of snow that would have made Su Ming feel at home. It was as if there was no winter in this place. His injuries were too deep. During that year, he had taken in a large amount of South Asunder, but it only made his chi recover to around 190 blood veins. He was still slightly away from his peak condition. In the course of that year, there were many times that Su Ming found tracks left by people when he went out searching for herbs. Once he even saw a team made of a dozen people hunting a giant snake in the rainforest. These berserkers were around the 5th and 6th level of the blood solidification realm. Only one man was at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. By the looks of the others around him, the man was someone who was rather renowned. They did not wear beast skins, but sackcloths. Most of them used spears as their weapons, and they seldom used bows. Almost everyone in the team wore a black bell that did not emit any sound on their wrists. Most of them only had one bell on their wrists, but that man had two. Su Ming also noticed that there was a teenager at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm among these people. His face was pale, as if he was sick. He was surrounded and protected by the team, and Su Ming saw 4 bells on his wrist. This was a completely different tribe compared to Dark Mountain and Windstream. When Su Ming was observing, he did not stand too close to them. Even so, he still attracted the attention of the man at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. The man did not make any sound immediately, but he did get closer to where Su Ming stood during the battle, all while acting as if he did it unintentionally. However, his actions were a little foolish in Su Ming's eyes. He left. With Su Ming's speed, if he wanted to leave, that man would not be able to stop him. Su Ming did not bother himself with these people, but continued searching for herbs. Once the sky started to darken, he ran into the group of people once again when he was returning to his cave. At that moment, they were setting up a simple beast skin tent in the rainforest while protecting the teenager with 4 bells. It looked like they were about to spend the night there. The man at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm held a spear and leaned against a big tree while keeping watch of his surroundings with bright eyes. Su Ming crouched on a tree in the distance and watched these people. His eyes slowly brightened up. His power might not have completely recovered, but at least he could fight now. He wanted to know where this place was and what tribes were around here. These people were obviously very averse to outsiders. If he approached them carelessly, they would likely not listen to his words and instead just engage him in battle. As his eyes flashed, Su Ming lowered his head. He retreated without a sound and vanished into the rainforest. Time passed by. 2 hours later, when the bonfire these people had made lessened the humidity in the air, the expression of the man leaning against the tree suddenly changed, and he clutched onto the spear in his hand tightly. The other people noticed his actions, and their demeanor changed as well. Soon, the roar of a beast came from the deeper parts of the rainforest. A creature that looked like a tiger, but with spikes about half a foot long protruding from its spine, swiftly charged out towards these people. Black Sting! These people immediately let out shocked cries, and chaos ensued. This creature likes fire. Extinguish the fire, quickly, the man at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm said immediately. He held the spear in his right hand and ran towards the wild beast. This beast may be strong, but it was just about the level of a berserker at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. The man could fight against it. Yet the moment he left the team to fight against that Black Sting, and his people extinguished the fire, the area became shrouded in darkness. While the people spent the next few short moments getting used to the darkness, a person charged out with a speed like lightning towards the teenager that was protected by the team. The stranger was too fast. When these people finally reacted to his presence, he had already closed in on the teenager. Without waiting for the pale-faced youth to resist, the person slammed the heel of his palm at the back of his neck, knocking him out, and grabbed him under his arm before escaping. These people were momentarily stunned, then their expressions changed drastically. Even the man's face immediately turned sullen. He wanted to pursue the stranger, but he was unable to chase away that Black Sting. With that slight delay, the person who caught the teenager disappeared deep into the forest. Su Ming sped through the rainforest with the teenager locked under his arm. He held no grudges against these people, so that's why he would not kill them without a reason. Even if he chose to lure a wild beast towards them, he still made sure the creature was one that these people could chase away without anyone dying. His target was only this teenager. This boy was definitely not of common birth. He must know quite a lot of things. If Su Ming wanted to know about this place, this was the only thing he could do. Once I get my answers, I'll let him go. Su Ming dashed through the forest into the distance. He circled the forest once and came to a more secluded corner before placing the boy down. He crouched down and scrutinized the teenager before understanding a few things. When he first saw the teenager, he could already tell that there were some problems. Once he got closer and confirmed it, Su Ming fell into momentary silence before bringing out one south asunder and scattering dust from his bosom and placing both in the teenager's mouth. Only then did he leisurely take a few steps back. He brought out a beast skin from the broken bag in his bosom. It was from a beast he'd hunted down for food during the past year. He placed it around himself, covering his body and face, and sat down against a tree not too far away from the teenager. He grabbed a small piece of wood with his right hand from his side. With a tiny flick of his wrist, the wood charged towards the teenager's brows. Su Ming did not use too much strength, but it was still enough to wake him up. The teenager opened his eyes in pain. There was confusion in his eyes, but it soon turned into a calm look. His face may have been sickly pale, but there was no panic on it. He looked at Su Ming, who was sitting before him with a beast skin covering his entire body. "Who are you?" Chapter 114, The Land of South Morning. The teenager's calmness did not seem fake, as if there truly was no hint of panic in him. That sort of attitude was not rare on an old person, but if a teenager could show such calmness, then it showed just how extraordinary his status was. He looked at Su Ming, and his eyes did not shine, nor did they waver. Yet when he looked at Su Ming, he cast a discreet glance over his entire body, as if trying to find where Su Ming came from through the minuscule clues on his body. Su Ming sat there with his entire body covered by the beast skin robe. The teenager's actions once he woke up made him look at the teenager with a hint of praise. Yet even so, it was impossible for the boy to find clues on his person. "You've had those wounds on your body for many years." Su Ming did not answer the teenager's question, but instead spoke slowly with a slightly hoarse voice. The teenager maintained a stoic demeanor and looked at Su Ming. He did not speak because he knew that the more he spoke the more likely he was to make mistakes. It was better for him to know what was the motive of this person who had captured and brought him here. It should have been left behind on purpose by a powerful berserker not long after you were born. Su Ming continued speaking unhurriedly. The teenager was shocked, but his face remained unchanging and blank. "Go on and sense the injuries in your body. See whether there are any changes." Su Ming spoke calmly, the tone of his voice not once rising. Once he finished speaking, he closed his eyes. The teenager was momentarily stunned. He cast a glance at Su Ming warily, then hesitantly closed his eyes and circulated his qi. He did not notice it once he woke up, but once he started circulating his qi, he opened his eyes abruptly. During that instant, he could clearly feel that the injuries in his body had healed slightly. He might be shocked, but he forced himself to be calm. He knew that he was wounded when he was 5, and someone cast a berserker art on him, but that person had made sure he would not die, just be gravely wounded. With this, the caster could detain his father's training, causing his father to need to waste a large amount of qi once in a while so that the teenager could continue living. These injuries were incredibly sinister. Over the years, he had consumed many herbs, yet it only allowed him to continue living, but did not heal him. Even the tribe leader, the elder, and the others could not do anything to help him. They had once said that if he wanted to recover, then the only way was to find the person who had cast that berserker art and kill him so that the berserker art would become unstable. Only then could it be dispelled. Now, however, the injuries in his body had healed a little. This was something he had not expected. His breathing quickened slightly. He lowered his head hastily, and as he checked the injuries in his body once again, he hid away the light in his eyes. He had begged the heavens to make him recover countless times in the past. He did not want to hold his father back, yet over the years, as he looked at his father's face becoming older, he started wanting to die. If it were not because he still had some worries left, he would have left the world behind a long time ago. This time, the people in the tribe had come to this rainforest to gather herbs for the tribe. He came with them, not to heal his injuries, but to prove that he was also a member of the tribe. Yet the protection provided by the tribe on the way made him sigh internally. He lowered his head, and a thought appeared in his mind. He lifted his head, no longer hiding his emotions. Instead, he looked at Su Ming dumbly, and on his face was excitement and a desire to live. You. The teenager took a deep breath, and his voice trembled slightly. The injuries in your body are too great. I can't heal you completely, but I should have at least made you slightly better. Su Ming opened his eyes. He looked at the teenager as if he could see through his thoughts, with eyes hidden under the robe. His voice was bland. The boy felt as if he had been seen through by Su Ming's one glance. He had always been intelligent since he was young. He had revealed his excitement and desire to continue living on purpose earlier. When he heard Su Ming's words, he let out a breath of relief in his heart. If Su Ming had been certain, he would not have believed him. He was well versed in his own condition. What do you want? The teenager fell momentarily silent before his expression returned to a blank look. He hid his nervousness away and looked at Su Ming as he spoke softly. Where is this place? Su Ming did not bother with any ploys and schemes. He simply stated his question. The information he wanted would let others get an inkling about him right from the get-go, so he might as well not hide. This is Wide Han, the teenager said softly, but then a thought appeared in his head and he continued speaking. Wide Han Forest is very big. This place is just a part of the forest. If you continue deeper and go over the mountains in the province, then you'll find yourself in a much bigger rainforest. As for how far away it goes, I'm not sure. I only know that if you go from where I came from, then in half a month, you'll reach Han Mountain City. This city is built using mountains. You'll definitely pass through this place if you want to go to the great tribe of Freezing Sky. It's a very prosperous city. The teenager spoke in detail. There were questions in his heart, but he did not show it. The great tribe of Freezing Sky. Su Ming frowned and let out a sigh internally. The farthest place he had ever gone to since he was young was Windstream Tribe. He had never even heard of other tribes before. The great tribe of Freezing Sky is one of the two big tribes in the land of South Morning. The teenager cast a glance at Su Ming and started explaining. His questions regarding this person became greater. He could somewhat tell that Su Ming was not from this place. This guess made his animosity towards Su Ming lessen by a great deal. What he was worried about the most were the people who held ill will towards his tribe. Through the clues he obtained from this person, he gradually began to let his guard down. Which tribe does Han Mountain City belong to? Su Ming's tone was casual. If he hadn't wanted to let this boy feel at ease so that he could obtain more information, he would not have revealed so many hints and clues about himself. Su Ming's question made the teenager even more at ease. A smile appeared on his face. Han Mountain City does not belong to a tribe, but three tribes, Puqiang Tribe, Lake of Colors Tribe, and Tranquilis Tribe. The city is controlled by these three tribes. I'm from Puqiang Tribe. Senior, if you have a berserker art that could heal my injuries, why don't you join Puqiang Tribe? You can become a guest there. We from Puqiang Tribe are courteous towards our guests. If you agree to it, you can find a place to rest there as well as understand the land better. If you have the chance, you could even obtain the chance to get into Freezing Sky Clan. When the teenager spoke about this, he seemed to cast a casual glance at Su Ming, scrutinizing him. Getting into that clan is too hard. Su Ming's expression was calm. He could understand all the boy's actions and see through his thoughts. Compared to Su Ming, this person was just a young La Su. The teenager touched his nose and smiled sheepishly as he spoke. You're right. Getting into Freezing Sky Clan may be difficult, but it's not impossible. 10 years ago, a person from Han Mountain Tribe managed to pass the test and become a berserker of Freezing Sky Clan. Su Ming was momentarily silent before he stood up. He could tell that everything the boy said was mostly true besides his own status. This information was not some sort of secret to begin with, so there was no need for him to lie to him. Once he sorted out the information in his head, Su Ming obtained a vague outline of the place. This place was indeed a completely different region from where he came from. In truth, when he looked at the stars in the sky at night, he could already tell that there was a sense of something wrong with them, though they were still somewhat familiar to him. Once Su Ming got up, he did not look at the boy. He did not even bother to ask for his name. Even if the boy had not told him that he belonged to Puqiang tribe, Su Ming would not have asked. Not that Su Ming believed that the boy belonged to whatever tribe he spoke of. While the teenager was smart, he was still NAV like a chick that had not experienced storms in life compared to Su Ming. Su Ming felt that he was looking at himself when he looked at the boy. The teenager was completely stunned when Su Ming walked into the rainforest. He had already pictured multiple scenarios and what he would say for each one of them in his head. All of them were for the sake of ensuring his own safety. Yet all these preparations were for naught when Su Ming leisurely went into the distance. He only asked about the information about this area. This person is really strange, but he has no ill will. The teenager touched his nose. In truth, he had already noticed that there was an astringent feeling in his mouth when he woke up, as if he had been fed something. Once he combined the facts that his injuries became better and that Su Ming left without a word, the teenager became certain that the person before him truly had no ill intentions towards him. If he wanted to harm me, then there would have been no need for him to heal my wounds. I would still have told him everything that did not involve the secrets of the tribe. But he didn't. He chose to heal my wounds first instead. He must have also lured in that black sting because that beast was around the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. Big brother Meng could handle it, and none of my people would die because of it. Thoughts flew quickly through the teenager's head. When he saw that Su Ming was about to vanish into the forest, he quickly got up and ran towards him. "Senior, please hold on." His voice traveled in the rainforest, but Su Ming did not stop. With one move, he disappeared from the teenager's eyes, vanishing into the distance. The teenager ran down the path for some time, but he found nothing. Regret appeared on his face. How could he walk so fast? I was too careful, and now I missed my chance to be healed. The more the teenager thought about it, the more regretful he became. Hesitation appeared on his face, as if he had a tough time making a particular decision. At that moment, rustling sounds came from within the rainforest. The teenager did not move. He could tell that his people were approaching him. Before long, the man at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm charged out, and behind him were all his other tribe members. None of them had died. When they saw that the teenager was safe, these people let out sighs of relief. The man called Meng moved towards him and asked a few questions in a whisper, but the teenager simply shook his head. He did not speak, neither did he talk about his conversation with Su Ming. He had his own thoughts in his heart. There was no longer any hesitation in him. He had made his decision. Su Ming walked quietly through the rainforest. He had taken down his robes and was walking towards the mountain range located before him with an uncertain expression on his face. The land of South Morning. Han Mountain City. The great tribe of Freezing Sky. Freezing Sky Clan. Su Ming did not know what Freezing Sky Clan was, but from the boy's words and expressions, he had a vague understanding regarding the tribe. This Freezing Sky Clan should be a different existence compared to a tribe. This is the land of South Morning. How far is it from my home? Su Ming let out a light sigh. He remembered that the person in black robes had mentioned that Dark Mountain was part of the alliance of the Western region, and Windstream tribe was a weaker branch of Miao Man. Chapter 115. He would not commit past mistakes. 2 months had passed since Su Ming got into contact with the berserkers of this place. He chose to continue staying at the place and create South Asunder, allowing his injuries to slowly recover. Right now, he was sitting in the cave with his legs crossed. Once he swallowed South Asunder, he sat for a time without a sound. There were only 10 dull blood veins from the 243 blood veins in his body. The rest of them showed signs of life now. During the past year, the many South Asunder had allowed him to slowly recover and stabilize the serious wounds and internal injuries he had sustained previously. While recuperating, he would often find himself missing his tribe, the elder, Xiao Hong, Bai Ling, and Lei Chen. Su Ming did not know whether the tribe was well. He did not know whether Xiao Hong was still playing happily in Dark Mountain. He did not know whether Bai Ling was still waiting for him because he did not fulfill his promise. Every single time he thought about it, Su Ming's heart would clench in pain. He was all alone in this unfamiliar place. When he looked at the moon in the sky, he would think of his home, the elder, whom he still refused to believe was dead, and everything that was familiar to him. Yet he had no idea where his home was. The only thing he knew was that Windstream Tribe was a weaker branch of Miao Man in the alliance of the Western region. However, it was clear that there was an incredible distance between the alliance of the Western region and the land of South Morning. Yet he did not know where the path between them was either. I need a map that leads me to the alliance of the Western region. Also, I need to make myself stronger. Only then can I have the strength to find my way home. Only by making myself stronger can I make the people mentioned by the person in black robes pay the appropriate price. During this period of time, Su Ming would often keep thinking about the battle between his tribe and Black Mountain Tribe. There were a lot of clues that he had missed during that fight, and all those clues pointed towards the person in black robes. Su Ming opened his eyes and got out of his meditative state. He looked at the darkness around him and loneliness struck him. This feeling was one that he had not gotten accustomed to over the past year. He had been in this cave for a long time. Su Ming walked out silently and stood outside the crack. He looked at the moon in the sky. It was quiet all around him. He sat down and breathed in the slightly humid air before bringing out a zun made of bone about the size of a fist and stroking its surface gently. After a long while, a moaning song seemed to be blown from a zun that no one else but Su Ming could hear. The notes seemed to echo in the air. The moaning sound contained sorrow, and the song continued for a long time. Su Ming did not know how to play music. There was a crack on the zun made of bone, making it impossible for it to produce any sound either way. That song was not played out. It simply existed in Su Ming's heart. He held the zun made of bone and closed his eyes as he listened to the song in his heart. This was the only sound that could keep him company in this place. It was as if he could really hear the song playing his ear, making him feel like he could find familiarity in this place. Every single time he felt lonely, he would think about the beautiful moments that had happened in the past. Every single time he felt estranged, he would think about the happiness in the past. After a long while, when the moon in the sky reached its brightest moment, Su Ming closed his eyes and sat down. His body began to glow in the moonlight. Gradually, faint illusions formed by moonlight floated out from his body and surrounded him. These illusions were wings of the moon. The wings of the moon were created when the elder of Fire Berserker tribe had cast a great divine art to grant those within Fire Berserker tribe immortality. This art was then modified by the god of berserkers with the eternal creation art, changing them into creatures that were neither human nor beast. But after passing ages, the divine art had become weaker, causing breaks to appear in their cursed immortality. However, when they fought against Bai Tu and the person in black, it was not enough to wipe out their existence. Their bodies might have been destroyed, but their souls still surrounded Su Ming and were hidden inside his body. They would appear under moonlight, but no one else besides those who practiced the ways of the Fire Berserker could see them. Su Ming did not obtain a clear answer from this. It was simply an understanding he obtained from the interaction between him and the souls of the wings of the moon. This was Su Ming's greatest support now. It was also the reason why he was not bothered by whether the boy 2 months ago had spoken of his existence to other people or not. He did not want to kill without reason, but if someone came to him looking for trouble, then they had to be prepared to face death. When the moon in the sky gradually disappeared and the morning sun appeared in the horizon, faint shouts came from the rainforest at the foot of the mountain. Xianxia, 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 I'm sorry, Xianxia. Su Ming's face was calm. He had been hearing this voice once every few days for the past 2 months. This rainforest was incredibly big and there were a lot of mountain ranges here. It might not be as hard as trying to find a needle in a haystack if someone tried to search for a person here, but it was close. The voice belonged to that boy. 2 months ago, when Su Ming left, he had already anticipated that this would happen. The boy was simply making a choice between choosing to talk or not talk about him. If he did, then he would perhaps bring about a lot of attention from his tribe and strong berserkers would come here, but Guanghan Forest was huge. Trying to search for a person inside it was hard. Besides, if Su Ming wanted to hide, it would make the search even harder. More importantly, these people would come asking for something from him. With the boy's intelligence, this sort of situation would not only not bring anything good to him, it might even make Su Ming displeased. The boy did not make Su Ming disappointed. For the past 2 months, he had always come alone to call out to Su Ming. Su Ming heard the voice calling out to him from a distance. He did not bother himself with it, but instead returned to the cave and continued creating South Asunder so that he could heal the injuries in his body. After a few days, the voice gradually disappeared. Half a month passed by. When there were only 9 blood veins left that were still dull on Su Ming's body, he heard that faint voice calling out to him once again from the rainforest. Xianxia, Xianxia. The voice had been calling out to him for 2 days, and would continue to do so. Su Ming opened his eyes as he got out of his meditative state. There was a contemplative look on his face. I won't make the same mistake as before. Su Ming looked as if he had just remembered something. He walked out of the cave and donned on the beast skin robe before running into the rainforest. Fang Mu's face was filled with remorse as he walked through the rainforest. There was also caution and alertness in his expression, while he held a black bone blade in his hand. The blade exuded a chilling presence, and it was the weapon he used to defend himself. After all, leaving the tribe alone to come to this place was a very dangerous thing to him. If he met any of his enemies here, that blade could serve its purpose. He continued running around the rainforest and shouting out the same words he had been repeating for the past 2.5 months. Xianxia, Xianxia. After a long while, he leaned against a big tree as he panted harshly. There was a helpless look on his face. Could it be that the strange person has left? If that wasn't the case, then since I've been calling for almost 3 months, he should have heard my voice. If he still hasn't left, then it means he doesn't want to see me. Fang Mu let out a long sigh and his expression became bitter. He looked at his surroundings and gritted his teeth before continuing onward. Xianxia, are you still here? The sun was about to set and the shadow of the moon was up in the sky. With a defeated look on his face, Fang Mu shouted once again towards the sky. I'm here. The moment Fang Mu finished speaking, a cold voice came from behind him. The voice appeared too suddenly, causing Fang Mu to jump in terror. He got up and quickly leapt forward, turning around with a face filled with wariness. He lifted the blade in his hands, but when he saw the person standing on a branch on the tree that was behind him, he was pleasantly surprised. Xianxia, I've been searching for you really hard. It's been almost 3 months. Fang Mu lowered the bone blade quickly and looked at Su Ming, who remained covered by the beast's skin, with excitement. Taking a few steps forward, Fang Mu bowed at Su Ming. Xianxia, please save me. I am Fang Mu. I hid the truth from you earlier. I am from Tranquillise tribe, and my father is the tribe leader of Tranquillise tribe. If you can treat the injuries in my body, then my father and I will definitely reward you greatly. This blade is my apology to you for when I lied to you earlier. Please accept it. The teenager called Fang Mu quickly handed over the black bone blade with both hands, an earnest look on his face as he bowed once again. The bone blade let out a black light and exuded a ghastly presence. It was clear that it was not some common object. In fact, it was just like blood scales, a counterfeit berserker vessel. This item would be incredibly valuable to a small tribe. Su Ming's eyes flashed. From the blade the boy gifted him, it was not hard for him to guess that the 3 tribes controlling Han Mountain City were middle-sized ones. There was no way that they could be small tribes. Su Ming moved to stand before Fang Mu. He cast Fang Mu a glance and took the black bone blade. He did not use his qi, but let the formless wings of the moon residing in his body to activate it. Immediately, the bone blade emitted a brilliant black light. The chilling air on the blade instantly disappeared, and the bone blade turned red, as if it was burning. A strong wave of heat flowed out. It made the trees around them fall into a state as if they were burning and were about to turn into dried wood. The heat crashed into Fang Mu, forcing him to move back. A stunned look appeared on his face, his heart pounding against his chest. He could not determine Su Ming's level of cultivation, but he knew that even the powerful berserkers in his tribe could not let the blade exude such a mighty presence. Only people like his father could. When the blade was first given to his father, Such a shocking effect was produced as well, but the presence that was emitted was not heat, but cold. Could it be that he's in the transcendence realm? Fang Mu's mouth was dry. He felt relieved that he did not tell anyone about this, but chose to come alone. If he made this person displeased, then the consequences would be terrible. Fang Mu could not see Su Ming's face, which added to his mysteriousness. At that moment, Su Ming lifted his left hand and with one swift motion, threw 2 pills into Fang Mu's mouth before he could even see them clearly. Su Ming then activated his qi and made those 2 pills melt, causing Fang Mu to not even be able to feel their shape. A hot stream flowed from the boy's mouth into his body. I'll give you the span of 15 breaths to remember this herb. When you come here next time, bring 1,000 of this herb to me in exchange for your healing items. Also, I do not like other people spying on me. This is the only time I'll allow it. Su Ming's voice was placid, but there was a hint of dreariness in his hoarse voice. He swung the bone blade with his right hand, and immediately, the bark of a big tree beside him fell off. The shape of an herb appeared on its surface. That picture was the one herb Su Ming was lacking to create mountain spirit, cloud gauze grass. He did not care about Fang Mu after that. Instead, he got up and took a step into the sky. The formless souls of the wings of the moon were underneath his feet. He stepped on one of them and walked away in the sky. No one could see the souls of the wings of the moon underneath his feet. In Fang Mu's eyes, Su Ming was walking on the air. It made him widen his eyes and take in a sharp breath. Is he really in the transcendence realm? After a long while, he finally reacted to it, but very soon, he remembered the latter half of Su Ming's words. He was momentarily stunned before looking around himself immediately and seeing a strong-looking person walking out from within the rainforest. Father! Fang Mu rubbed his eyes. He looked incredibly shocked. The big man wore a blue robe. He walked to Fang Mu's side with a stern expression and looked in the direction Su Ming had left in, frowning. How are your injuries? He asked with a low voice. Fang Mu felt apprehensive. He quickly checked the injuries in his body. Once he discovered that they had become slightly better, he immediately nodded his head. Father, have you been following me all this while? That man discovered you. Could he really be in the transcendence realm? Doesn't seem like it. The qi in his body is. The man frowned. Before he finished speaking, the picture of the cloud gauze grass on the tree bark beside him gradually turned into wooden shards and fell off. This was the strength of Su Ming's fine control. He could already control all his qi precisely. Exactly 15 breaths. This is the fine control of the transcendence realm. The man's pupils shrank. It's over. I haven't memorized the shape of that herb. Fang Mu immediately became anxious. The man took in a deep breath. He might still be a little dubious, but he was mostly certain about what he had seen now. He turned around and spoke to Fang Mu sternly. That's cloud gauze grass. I'll help you get it. Respect this person. Don't offend him with your words or your actions. When you see him, treat him as you would treat the adults in the tribe. He might be a stroke of good luck to you. Chapters 111 through 115 conclude with a moment that will be etched into the history of Han Mountain City. Su Ming has achieved the impossible, but his success has painted a massive target on his back. The 3 tribes are now desperate, and the Grandmaster persona may no longer be enough to protect his secrets. Thank you for listening to Pursuit of the Truth on PandaAudioBooks. How many times do you think the bell will ring for Su Ming? Let us know your theories in the comments. Join us next time for chapters 116 to 120, where the true identity of the climber is nearly revealed. Like, subscribe, and keep pursuing the truth.